Hello and welcome to the 30k channel, a channel dedicated to games set in the Horus Heresy. I'm your host, as always, David Brains, and I've been joined by a returner, John Sim. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, really great to have John back. We haven't seen him for nearly 2 years.
2 years.
Woo-wee. But you've been busy though, right?
I think so.
I think the last time we saw you, you played our friend Lee, Mr. Langford.
It was.
And it was Thousand Suns
Versus the Salamanders.
Ah, yes. I can't remember how you went. Did you do well?
The Thousand Suns didn't win that one.
Oh, sad times, sad times. I think that game is available on YouTube though, so if you want to go back and watch it, have a look for your first debut game. But you're back in vengeance with a force, aren't you?
Yes, but the Ultramarines.
They're nice.
Shiny.
I must admit, I noticed this when we were setting up. I've gone for a very kind of glossy, shiny red, and you've gone for a kind of a glossy, shiny blue.
Yes,
so it works.
Yes.
You've got a lot of tanks though, but then I have as well.
Yes.
But you're 14, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not all of them. There's one with 11.
It's going to be a tough game. We talked about this before the game. We've both brought very, very keen lists. This game is not for the faint-hearted, is what I'm going to say. So if you're a nervous disposition,
look away now.
Yeah, God. But we have got one hell of a centrepiece to fight over.
And we're just.
We have been really lucky. You've brought your Warbringer Titan.
I have.
It's amazing. It looks so cool. And I've tried to make a little repair bay for it. I think it works.
I think it does work.
To a point.
I want to take it home.
Do you?
Yes.
A trip to your local garden centre will secure all the parts that I've done for this board, so you'll be absolutely fine. 60 quid at B&Q and you'll be all right.
Okay.
Anyway, what have we got for you? We have got an alliance between the Mechanicum and the Ultramarines, but the heresy has happened, Mars has fallen pretty much, and the once friendly Mechanicum robots with the Ultramarines have turned and they've taken over the Ultramarines Warbringer. It's an Ataris, isn't it?
Legio Ataris, yes.
Yeah. So the Ultramarines aren't best pleased.
Not at all.
So they're going to take their Titan back. So it's an interesting mission. We've gone for a few slight tweaks to the game. We've gone for Tide of Carnage to capture those sectors of the battlefield. But we're saying that the Thalax are in amongst the Titan Bay, but all of their vehicles are in reserve. But the Ultramarines, because they're so close, they've brought everything to the fight and they are straight in there, aren't they?
They want it back very badly.
Yeah.
They do not want that falling into War Master's hands.
No.
Definitely not.
You know, it's not my choice that we've fallen. If it was up to me, I'd be a loyalist player.
Of course.
You forced my hand.
I'm very sorry about that.
But let's talk about your list. Tell me about it. It's beastly.
It's a lot of Land Raiders.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the best way to describe it, is it's a lot of Land Raiders.
2 Achilles Alpha though, right?
Yes. They are the best tanks in the game for me. I would pick these over Spartans any day of the week, yeah. They're so good. They are so good. They
are cool. They pack a lot of punch. They've got a lot of fire power. You've got the 2 twin-link Volkites on the side. You've got the Shat Shells and the quad cannon in the front.
Quad cannon in the front.
Tell me about the Fulmentari. What's going on there?
Well, the Fulmentaris, you don't see them very often, especially with auto cannons. I don't know what I was thinking when I made them, but I thought, everyone, if they make them, they put Cyclones, and I thought, I want to be different, and I want to spend 350 points on 5 Terminators for some reason, and
it's bonkers.
It is bonkers. Don't know how good they are. They haven't done much in any of their games, but this will be their turnaround game, I think.
Some people might argue it's because they haven't got Psycho Missile Launchers.
That's probably what they'll say. But that's another 100 points.
But you get 2, is it 2 or 2 strength 8 missiles from each?
On the Cyclones, yeah.
Oof. I don't know.
With Tank Hunter.
Maybe that's 100 points worth spending, I'm not sure.
Maybe.
We'll find out.
Maybe then.
Odd. We'll find out.
We'll find out.
And you've got breaches. You know, I love breaches. They look fantastic, don't they?
Yeah, mixed armour breaches. We've got a couple of power saws in there. Plenty of melter bombs.
Yeah, of course.
As you would normally see breaches, they are what they are.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting list. You know, the Mechanicum, this is the list I took to Company of Legends a couple of weeks ago. Thanks to Graham, Michael and Chris and the team. Had an amazing time. I really recommend their event, so definitely go. The list I brought is exactly the same. It's just the same list that I used. I'm not sure how it's going to go because we're going to be defending the Titan, so we've got a bit of cover, but we've got to rely on those reserve rolls to get the tanks in, because that's where the punch is. That will take out the Ultramarines tanks. If we haven't got those tanks on, we're probably going to struggle really quite a bit. But we've got some photon thrusters coming down range.
We have.
We're fishing for 6s, but we've got a twin link. We've got a reroll thanks to Tank Hunter, the Destructor special roll. So we'll see how that goes.
And I didn't play for Armoured Ceramite.
No, well, not the 20 points range though, so
That's it.
you've got to be within 12. So I don't know, you can probably pick them out. You've got a lot of firepower coming in.
We'll see if it's enough.
Yeah, and you've got 2 orbital bombardments as well, haven't you?
There is a Master of Signal.
Yeah.
Whether we get to use it or not is another thing, but there is a Damocles in there
Yeah.
for maybe a little cheeky bombardment.
I could probably do with a Damocles, to be fair, to get my gear on, couldn't I?
Yes, probably.
I need to take an Age defence line with a relay. Don't I?
Yep, definitely. A Vox relay.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing. Before we go into the game of the list, we must say very big thanks to John for coming. You come from Nottingham this morning,
yep.
Nice and early.
Nice and early.
You brought a friend.
I did.
He's just off camera at the moment, but we've got Ed with us today as well.
Another veteran.
Another veteran, yeah. We're desperately trying to recruit him to come back on. He's got a big force, I understand, he's painting.
Yeah, 40,000 points of it.
Yeah. So we'll have so much to pick from, I'm sure, but we'll get
hurry up.
We'll get him on soon, hopefully. I think it's going to be an interesting game.
I think so too.
We've got a unique board, and hopefully that will drive the story. I think the Tide of Carnage is key because we've both got tanks and the scoring.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
That's huge, isn't it?
It's going to play a big part in the game.
Yeah, I reckon. All right, let's get on with it. Let's look at these lists, and then we'll see at the beginning of turn 1. 3,000 points of Auto Reductor, led by an Arch Magos Reductor. The Warlord trait is Dread Rights. Leading the Auto Reductor is an Arch Magos Reductor. He's equipped with Melter Bombs, a Melter Gun, Jinskine, a Cyber Familiar, and 2 Cyber Ocularis. The first troop's choice is a unit of 6 Thalax, equipped with 4 Lightning Guns, 2 Multi-Melters. They all have Melter Bombs and the Destructor special rule, which gives them Tank Hunters. Troop's choice 2, 3, and 4. Again, 6 Thalax, 4 Lightning Guns, 2 Photon Thrusters, 6 Melter Bombs, and they too have the Destructor special rule. Dedicated transports for the Auto Reductor are 2 Triaris Armoured Conveyors. They're equipped with Blessed Auto Simulacra and Extra Armour. In this particular mission, the Thalax will not be deploying in the Armoured Conveyors. They will just come on reserves. The first of 4 heavy support choices is a 2-vehicle squadron of Kryos Venator tanks. They're equipped with Searchlights, Flare Shield, and Blessed Auto Simulacra. There is also a second unit of Kryos Venators. Heavy support choice 3 and 4 are 2 Kraknos assault tanks. Both are equipped with Blessed Auto Simulacra, Flare Shields, Searchlights, and Shock Rams.
3,000 points of Ultramarines, running no right of war. The Warlord trait is the Master of the Vanguard. HQ and Warlord for the Ultramarines is a Siege Breaker. He has a Thunder Hammer, a Combi Melter, Artificer Armour, a Refractor Field, Melter Bombs, and a single Phosphex Bomb. Making up the rest of the HQ is a Master of Signal. He is armed with Artificer Armour, Bolt Pistol, Legatine Axe, Melter Bombs, and a Refractor Field. Troops choice for the Ultramarines is a unit of 10 Breachers. It has 5 Power Swords, 5 Bolters. They all have Melter Bombs and a dedicated Transport Land Raider that is armed with a Dozer Blade, Extra Armour, and a Auxiliary Drive. Second troop choice for the Ultramarines is the exact same unit of the first. Third troop choice is a Legion Support Squad, all armed with Plasma Guns, and there's a single Melter Bomb on the Sergeant. Fourth and final troops choice is another Legion Support Squad. This one is all armed with Melter Guns, and there's a single Melter Bomb on the Sergeant. First heavy support choice is a unit of Fulham Taurus Terminators, all armed with autocannons. There is 3 Power Fists in there and 2 Power Mauls, and they have a dedicated Transport Land Raider. Heavy supports 2 and 3, we have 2 Land Raider Achilles Alpha patterns. They have Shatter Shells and Auxiliary Drives.
John, we've deployed and we're ready to go.
We are.
We've had a look at the lists. They're a bit spicy,
They are.
I think is the word to use. And the Ultramarines are determined to stop that Mechanicum power grab, aren't they?
Aren't they just?
They've roared in on their Armour 14 chariots,
They certainly have.
ready to smash aside the traitorous Mechanicum
Yes,
and retrieve your Atarus Titan.
absolutely.
Now, the Mechanicum deployed first around the Titan. So I've deployed some on the gantry, some below. I've put a unit the other side just to give me a bit of flexibility. But all of the Mechanicum vehicles are in reserve. We did roll to deploy first, go first, but we chose Mechanicum go first. Then we rolled off to see who gets first turn.
Exactly.
You won it, but you gave it to me.
I did.
Crazy. I would have had the first turn if I was the Ultramarines to get those shots in down, but we'll see how it goes.
There was tactics to this.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it gives you the last turn.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I do love the second. I love a last turn.
We have a last turn, cheeky jump on the objective.
Yeah, so it makes it harder for Mechanicum, but particularly with those vehicles not being able to come in. So we're fishing for sixes on those photon thrusters.
Aren't we just?
We'll see how we go. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too.
Friendly handshake. Good luck.
Absolutely. Good luck to you, sir.
And we're into Mechanicum turn 1. Auto reductor turn 1 movement. Not a lot going on as we've only got 4 units of Thalax on the board, but this unit here with the 2 photon thrusters have moved forward along that gantry, hoping to score a few glancing hits down on those on that wall of armor 14. The Magos and his 2 Cyber Ocularis have just shuffled around at the base of the Warbringer's feet. And the squad with the multi-melters have moved forward. They intend to use their thrust move in the assault phase to get on top of that building, ready to fire down in the next couple of turns. The units on the side here have just squeaked over a little bit, and we're going to try and get some shots down on this Achilles Alpha just to try and blunt the Ultramarines' attack. You never know, we might roll a few sixes. Auto reductor turn 1 shooting phase. Not a bad opening round from this side of the board. The 2 photon thrusters on top of the gantry and 1 photon thruster from the side of the rock formation there did think about targeting the Land Raider Achilles, but they are immune to Lance, so we weren't able to glance it, which is really interesting. So they redirected their shots against the Mark IIB Land Raider behind, and with some really good rolls and some re-rolling to Tank Hunter, managed to glance that Land Raider out and forcing the Breacher Marines onto the battlefield. So not a bad opening round there. Not so lucky on this side of the board. The 4 photon thruster shots came out. One of them got hot, causing a wound on one of the Thalax. We did target the other Land Raider Mark IIB on this side, but all of the shots failed to hit. Can't complain, I guess, from the result from the other shooting. Other than that, that is the end of the shooting phase for the auto reductor. We're now going to go into the assault phase and do some thrust moves. Auto reductor, turn 1, assault phase. Some really good thrust moves on the Thalax there. The average roll was about 8 or 9 plus, so this unit have shuffled back just to put some distance between them and those approaching tanks rather. The multi unit that were down on the pad there rolled a massive 11 inches, and they are just keying up some shots on the next turn with their lightning guns into that Ultramarine wall of armor 14. On the side here, the Thalax unit down there have just pushed forward 10 inches. They're going to try and get rid of some of those breaches maybe. And then finally, this unit on here rolled a 7, and they just shuffled around to put some ablative wounds between them and the photon thruster wielding Thalax. And finally, the 2 Cyber Ocularis rolled 6 inches each. This one's cut on the left-hand side, ready for the vehicles to pass plus on ballistic skill from the Magos. And then finally, that little guy over there has just pushed forward onto the rock to get a better field of fire, ready for the Kraknos assault tank and be able to pass on the line of sight for the barrages. Other than that, we are now braced and ready for that wall of armor 14 to crash into the Titan facility.
Ultramarines turn 1 movement. All the Land Raiders have moved up 6 inches. The Fulham and Taurus have deployed out of their Land Raider to get early shots fired off at the Thalax. The unit of Breachers that had their Land Raider destroyed on the last shooting phase has also moved up 5 inches. And the last Alpha has also moved up 6 inches, ready to engage the Thalax on the left flank. Ultramarines turn 1 shooting phase. The unit of Breachers are opened up with their bolt guns first, shooting into the unit of Thalax on the left flank, doing 2 wounds to the first Thalax in front. The Achilles then opened up fire with its Volkites onto the same unit, absolutely doing nothing. The Thud gun then opened up fire onto the unit of Phalanx, absolutely no damage. And then the Power of the Machine Spirit, second Volkite, went into the Cyber Ocularis, managing to do 2 wounds, but luckily Brains made all of his saves. Next to fire was the second Achilles, firing at the unit of Phalanx on the left flank on top of the bridge, opening up with its barrage shot first, causing 1 wound, and then opening up with its Volkites, causing another wound as well. Next to fire was the Fulmintaurus' Land Raider, opening up with its last cannons against the Thalax on top. Did cause 1 wound, but somehow Brains made his 6 up feel no pain. Next to fire were the Fulmintaurus with their autocannons. It was 10 shots into the Thalax on top of the building. We managed to get 9 hits. Due to the interlocking tactics of the Ultramarines, we were rerolling 1s to wound. We then caused 9 wounds, and then the Thalax managed to fail 7 of their feel no pain rolls, killing 2 models and leaving 1 on 2 wounds. Next to fire was this Land Raider, targeting the Thalax on top of the bridge on the right flank, opening up with Heavy Bolter first, managing to cause 1 wound, and then subsequently firing with a second last cannon, and unfortunately causing no wounds. Final part of the shooting phase, Damocles Command Rhino, using its orbital bombardment, targeted the Thalax on the right flank on top of the bridge. Did get a slight scatter, but it still managed to hit 3 models and cause 3 wounds. And then the Thalax failed 1 of their feel no pain rolls, so I caused 2 wounds total. And then we move on to the Thalax on top of the building. We were called upon, since they lost a lot of models, to make a leadership test, which they easily passed. And that's the end of Ultramarines Turn 1. Not as much damage as we would like to have done, but since we are the Ultramarines, we will use courage and honour, and we will persevere.
Auto Reductor Turn 2 movement phase. Reserves weren't too bad, but thanks to the Ultramarines Damocles Command Rhino, the reserve rolls suffered a -1. So to that end, 1 Cryos Venator unit came on this side, and on the far side we had 1 Kraknos assault tank and 1 Triaurus armoured conveyor. But the Thalax are moving aggressively. All squads have moved forward as fast as they can. This squad here have moved forward. We are going to try a cheeky charge on that Achilles with our melter bombs. I know they're not massively effective, but it will be something to do. This unit here have moved forward across that gantry closest to the crane. The Thalax unit on top of the command building there move forward on top to bring that multi-melter to bear on those Fulmintauri. We need to get rid of those. Their autocannons are quite devastating to this army. You can see the reserves here on the left-hand side. The plan will be to flat out that armoured conveyor. We might try and pick up this troop unit later on in the game. And the photon thrusters here have pushed forward to bring their weapons to bear on the Ultramarines. And then finally, the Cyber Ocularis is descending from the rocky outcrop there. Auto Reductor Turn 2 shooting. The Triaurus armoured conveyor has flatted out a further 6 inches to gain ground on the Ultramarines. But the 2 photon thrusters on this Thalax squad shot 4 shots into the Land Raider Mark IIB. Only scored 2 hits from 4 shots, but thanks to Tank Hunter, managed to put 2 glancing hits on the front of that Land Raider. We are slowly chipping away the Armour 14. Next to fire were 2 lightning guns and 2 multi-melters down at the Fulmintauri in front of them. Unbelievably, the multi-melters hit, wounded and killed 2 Fulmintauri. And then the lightning gun snuck in a little AP4 shot, and unfortunately the Terminator rolled a 1 and died. So that wasn't too bad. Killing 3 of those Fulmintauri in 1 turn of shooting was pretty amazing. The Thalax on top of the gantry there fired a photon thruster into the Ultramarines breaches, but failed to hit. So it was a little unfortunate. But the lightning guns fired from the Thalax in front, just in front of that Achilles Alpha, managed to blow off the right-hand side Volkite weapon and cause a hull point. The newly arrived Cryos Venators were clearly unsettled because they rushed to the battlefield. One of the Venators was out of range by ½ an inch, which was real unfortunate because he could have moved further on the board, but there you go. That's my bad positioning. But the Venator there fired 4 shots into the front of that Achilles Alpha, got 1 hit and 1 glance. So not amazing, but not bad. The Kraknos assault tank fired into the air its deadly cargo of fleshbane missiles onto the Fulmintauri. It couldn't see it, and there is no model with a line of sight from the Cyber Ocularis or the HQ to to stop it from scattering full scatter. However, it did hit on target, but only managed to wound 2 of the Terminators, and they promptly passed their armour save. That is all the shooting coming out from the Thalax on the Titan repair bay. We're just now going to do some sneaky thrust moves in the assault phase. Mechanicum turn to assault phase. The Thalax on the right hand side with 2 photon thrusters have just started to descend from the facility to intercept the Ultramarines on foot. The Thalax and the multi-melters only rolled a 3 on their thrust move, so they are stuck on the command centre there. The squad behind that were on the gantry have pushed forward. We're starting to get closer to the Ultramarines. This unit here did try a 10-inch charge into that Achilles Alpha, but rolled a 6 and failed. And then finally, this Cyboclaris moved forward 7 inches, anticipating where the Krass Venators will be next turn to pass his ability from the Magos onto them in the next turn. We are now bracing for the Ultramarines assault.
Ultramarines turn 2 movement phase. The second breacher unit has moved up in their Land Raider and have deployed out, ready to take shots at the Thalax on the mountainside. Moving across, the second Land Raider Achilles has also moved up, but the Warlord and his unit have stayed inside this turn. First unit of breachers have gone through difficult terrain and managed to move up 6 inches. They're going to be taking some pot shots at the Thalax on the top of the building. And now the Master of Signals and his plasma support team have disembarked from the Achilles, ready to use their plasma guns on the Thalax on the left flank. Ultramarines turn 2 shooting phase. Combined fire from the Land Raider Achilles Alpha and the plasma support team have managed to kill 2 Thalax and leave 1 on 2 wounds remaining. And then the power of Machine Spirit from the Shatter Shells on the Achilles Alpha took 4 punts at the lead Venator, causing no damage. The Master of Signals then called upon his orbital bombardment, only getting 1 shot. The blast was a successful hit, hitting both the Venators, causing 1 glance and 1 penetrating hit, leaving 1 of the Venators stunned. Next to fire was the Achilles Alpha, using power of the Machine Spirit to fire 1 Volkite at a separate target, managed to kill 1 Thalax with the photon thruster. And then it opened up fire with the Shatter Shells and snap firing Volkite from the other side, and managed to kill 1 more Thalax. Next to fire was the Fulminataurus. They fired up against the Thalax on top of the building, killing another model. Next to fire, the final Mark IIB, using power of the Machine Spirit, fired its heavy bolters up against the Thalax, causing 1 wound. And then 1 last cannon fired at full ballistic skill at the Trias armor conveyor and managing a glancing hit. Next to fire, the second unit of breachers, using 10 bolt pistol shots into the Thalax, causing no damage. Ultramarines turn to assault phase. The second unit of breachers have declared their charge against the Thalax. The Thalax then overwatched, and with a lucky shot from the photon thruster, caused 1 wound, killing 1 Marine. And since it causes blind, I had to take a test, and unfortunately I failed this test, and now the breachers are blind. Striking at Initiative 4, the Ultramarines breachers started off their attack. The Marines with bolters struck first, causing no wounds. Then hitting on 5s with the 5 Ultramarines with power swords, managed to cause 4 wounds. And the Thalax then saved 1 of the wounds. 2 wounds went through, killing 1 Thalax.
Striking Initiative 2, the Thalax piled into the combat. Unfortunately, only 2 Thalax could attack. The others were unfortunately waylaid by the rocky outcrop there. But 4 attacks, 4 hits, 3 wounds, but the breacher armour held fast. The Ultramarines won the combat, but the Thalax are stubborn and they passed their leadership test. I have a feeling those 2 units will be locked up in combat for some time.
End of Ultramarines turn 2. We're making more progress towards the Titan. We're now locked in combat and we're just going to keep pushing forward.
Auto Reductor turn 3 movement phase. The reserve roll was really good. Only the Kraknos assault tank didn't come on, but because the movement in the previous turn wasn't amazing, there was a bit of a bottleneck. But this Trias armor conveyor moved forward a full 12 inches. I would have liked to ram into that Land Raider Mark IIB, but it just wasn't quite in range. The Thalax squad here are tied up in combat with those breachers. The Kraknos here has moved up 6 inches, and the other armoured conveyor has squeezed on the board ever so gently, but it got in there in the end. On this side, well, what a mess really. Because the reserves came on, the two Venators had to move around the other two Venators, thanks to their galvanic traction drives help them out there. But the four are just clustered together on this side. It's quite a formidable sight, seeing those four beasts corralled in that corner. The Thalax here have pushed forward. They intend to shoot and annihilate that plasma support squad. The Magos has finally made an appearance from within the Titan Bay and hopefully will lend his melter gun in next turns. And the two units of Thalax here have just pushed forward. Got to remember, it's Tide of Carnage. We need their scoring ability on the other side of the board, but they will lend their firepower either into the Filamentari or the breaches in front of them. It's getting really, really tight. Auto Reductor, turn 3, shooting phase. Started off with both the Trios armor conveyors flatted out 6 inches. They don't have a lot to go on at the moment, so they just flatted out. We might be able to get a ram off on that Millennium Mark 2B next turn. The Kraknos assault tank fired its missiles over the top using the Cyber-Ocularis down here as line of sight and put 4 wounds on that breacher unit. They do get to reroll their saves against blast being breaches, and it managed to kill one of them. Not amazing, but it's a start. The two Thalax atop their balcony in their accommodation there fired 2 multi-melters down into the Filamentari at the base of that hill. 2 hits, 2 wounds, and the vulnerable save was failed, killing the rest of that squad off. Very pleased with that result. The Thalax next to the command bunker there fired 3 lightning guns into the breaches. Got 3 hits, but the armour held fast. And finally, the photon thruster fired in, got 1 hit, 1 wound, and killed a breacher. They also passed their blind check. The Thalax in front of the plasma support squad fired 4 photon thruster shots into the squad. Got 3 hits, but only 1 wound, rolling an obscene amount of 1s, killing the lead Marine. The lightning guns then fired in, managed to hit and wound, but the armour save was passed. Shame really, would have liked to have caused at least 3 casualties in that squad, at least with the AP2, but nevertheless, they will give it a charge next turn. A bit of tricky firing here from the 2 Venator squadrons. Now, squadrons can fire through each other, that's fine, but because of the way the reserves came on, the Venator on the front of the screen here was snap shooting, and that fired into the plasma support squad, getting 1 hit and 1 kill, with a -1 cover save from Cyber-Ocularis for being within 12 inches. So good result. Less wounds for the Thalax to peel through when they when they charge. And then this Venator in the centre of the screen here fired at full ballistic skill into the Achilles Alpha. 4 hits, 1 pen, 1 glance. The cover save was failed, and that was enough to wreck that tank. That is a little bit of relief. We will now go on to the assault phase. Auto Reductor, turn 3 assault phase. The Thalax made a beastly charge of 7 inches into the plasma support squad. Overwatch was ineffective, and they made their charge, but striking initiative 5 will be the Ultramarines.
Striking at initiative 5, the Master of Signal goes first with his Ligantine axe. He had 4 attacks, hit with 3 of them, and wounded with 2 of them. And the Feel No Pains were failed. Initiative 4, the Ultramarines Tactical Support Squad went next. Got 2 hits. We did get 1 wound, but the armour save was passed.
At initiative 2, the Thalax struck in with 12 attacks. They have 3 on the charge, which is amazing. Now, out of those 12, only 3 hit, but they caused 3 wounds. The Sergeant then decided to tank all of the wounds on him. He passed 1, failed 1, killing him, and then the other Marine failed another armour save, bringing the combat to a draw. I think the Thalax were very, very lucky in that combat.
On the other side of the board, the Ultramarines swung in at initiative 4, still blinded from the previous turn. However, of all the attacks, we still managed to get 1 hit and 1 wound, and the armour save was then failed, killing 1 Thalax that already had 2 wounds.
Next strike at initiative 2 were the Thalax. They came in with 8 attacks, got 5 hits, 3 wounds, and the Ultramarines failed a save, killing one of the breaches. That combat is a draw. End of turn 3 for the Auto Reductor. Not a bad turn. Surviving those combats is really key. They won't get shot at. And the rest of the Thalax have made their thrust moves to try and mitigate the damage coming in. The 2 multi-melter Thalax that were at the front of this command building have rolled a massive 12, and they have powered back behind, so they will get no shots coming in, hopefully. The squad of Thalax that were just in front of the crane and those crates have hopped over 10 inches, claiming cover from that barrier. And that is all of the thrust moves. Oh, excuse me, one final one. This little Cybot Colaris managed a massive 2-inch thrust move. On the whole, really great turn.
Ultramarines turn 3 movement phase. The Mark IIB has moved out of the way of the Trios armour conveyor, and it's moved itself around to try and get a shot off at the second Trios. The Laneraid Achilles has stayed stationary. The Fulminataurus's Mark IIB has stayed stationary, and the Damocles Command Rhino has backed up to secure my deployment zone. Ultramarines turn 3 shooting phase. Combined fire from the Mark IIB and the Achilles Alpha pattern have managed to cause 3 wounds onto the Thalax, killing 1 model and leaving 1 on 1 wound. The second Mark IIB opened up with its heavy bolter against the Thalax, causing 1 wound. The last cannons then fired and caused no wounds. Final unit to shoot was the Ultramarine Breachers. They had 11 shots, not very successful on the hits, only getting 3 hits. 1 wound was caused, but the armour save and Fiona Payne was failed. Ultramarines turn 3 assault phase. The Master of Signals swung in with his Legatane axe, rolled 2 6s to hit, which caused 2 instant wounds, and the front Phalanx managed to roll 2 6s for his Fiona Payne, causing no damage. The final Tactical Support Marine then swung in with his 1 attack and caused no damage.
At Initiative 2, the Thalax struck back with 8 attacks, getting 6 hits and 4 wounds, and that was enough to drag one of the plasma gun marine armed marines down. But the HQ there is standing strong, passing his leadership despite losing the combat. That will continue for another turn.
Over the other side of the board, the Breachers have managed to do another 4 wounds to the Thalax, taking 1 Thalax off the board and putting 2 wounds on another.
The Thalax struck back at Initiative 2 with 6 attacks, only managed to hit twice, but they failed to wound, unfortunately. They did lose the combat by 4, but because they are stubborn, they passed their leadership on a 6. That combat, again, will continue. One point of interest before we go into the roundup for the Ultramarines, the Thalax that took casualties at the front of that building failed their leadership test, and they have fled back 7 inches into the Titan complex. Not good.
End of turn 3 for the Ultramarines. It's been a very good turn. We're still locked in combat and we're still pushing forward.
Auto Reductor, turn 4 movement. The squad that fled from the battlefield in the previous turn have rallied, but they couldn't move far enough to get their weapons to bear, really, so they've just stayed behind that command bunker there. The 2 multi-melters have got on top of that bunker. They will fire down probably into the Breach Marines. The Magos, that's been a bit redundant this turn, he's moved forward 6. He's starting to get into the battle now. There was a lot of shuffling here for the Venators. I couldn't move them all as far as forward as I wanted them to. So we'll probably flat all 4 of them out in this turn. We need to get them into the Ultramarines deployment zone and divert some of those tanks coming at the Thalax. They're starting to weather the storm and they are failing. So we need to support them. On the other side of the board, reserves went really well, getting the final Kreknos assault tank in. Again, it was a bit tight, hampered by the Titan facility, but the other Kreknos moved forward 6 inches. This Chiaros moved forward 12, as did this one. We're going to try and get some sneaky Mauler bolt cannon shots on the Breachers, snap shooting. Let's see how we get on. Auto Reductor turn 4 shooting phase. This Chiaros armoured conveyor flatted out a further 6 inches, and the Mauler bolt cannon fired 3 snap shooting Mauler bolt cannon shots into the Breachers. Got 1 hit, but failed to wound. The Thalax armed with 2 multi-melters fired down from that command bunker into the Breachers, and amazingly got 2 hits, 2 wounds, and the Breachers failed their invulnerable saves and took 2 from the squad. On the left-hand side of your screen there, the 2 Venator squadrons flatted out 12 inches. It seems such a waste to waste all those beautiful Strength 9 AP2 ordnance shots, but we've got to play to the mission and we've got to get into the enemy's deployment zone. They have pushed forward very aggressively. The only thing left to do now is to fire the 2 Kreknos assault tanks. The 2 Kreknos assault tanks fired their Radphage missiles into the air, landed square onto the Breachers, but despite causing 12 wounds in total, the Breachers with their void hardened armour re-rolled all of their saves and no damage was caused. It's a bit of a shame. We are now going to go into the assault phase. Auto Reductor turn 4 assault phase. Starting on the left-hand side of the Titan facility, the Ultramarines attack at Initiative 4.
So the Ultramarines attacks at Initiative 4. They caused 4 wounds to the Thalax and subsequently killed 2 of them because they were down to 2 wounds each.
Striking Initiative 2, the lone Thalax went in with 2 attacks, 2 hits, 2 wounds, but the armour save held fast. They lost the combat by a considerable amount, but because they are stubborn, they managed to roll an 8. That is fantastic news, and that unit will hold against the Ultramarine breaches. In the shadow of the Achilles Alpha, the Master of Signals struck at Initiative 5 with his Legatine Axe. No hits normally, but 1 got through on a 6, which automatically causes an AP2 wound, and the Thalax failed his 6-up Feel No Pain, chopping him in half. Next to fight Initiative 2 will be the 3 Thalax. Striking back at Initiative 2, the 3 Thalax went in with 6 attacks, got 2 hits, but failed to wound. So that was really unfortunate, but they did pass the leadership test once again. That stubborn rule is absolutely amazing for those Thalax, and that combat is tied. The only thing left to do was the thrust moves. So the little Cyber Ocularis there moved back 7 inches. The Thalax and the multi-melters moved back behind the cover and safety of that building there. And finally, the Cyber Ocularis has moved onto the balcony of that building and got a massive 7 inches on his thrust move. We are now going into Ultramarines' next turn.
Ultramarines turn 4, movement phase. The unit of breachers have now moved across to the left-hand flank, looking to try and get a charge off against the Venator squadrons. The Achilles in the middle has moved across to the left flank, and now the Warlord and his Melter support team have disembarked from the Achilles. The 2 remaining Mark IIBs have shuffled and lined up their shots against the side of the Krios armoured conveyor, and the Damocles command Rhino has remained stationary. Ultramarines turn 4 shooting phase. The 2 Mark IIBs have combined fire and shot at the side of the Krios armour conveyor, causing 1 pen and 1 glance. The result on the pen was just a vehicle shaken result. Next to fire was the Achilles Alpha. It fired its frag shell over at the Thalax behind the building. Now with the large blast template, it was managed to clip 2 units, causing 1 wound to 1 unit, and then subsequently the Volkites then fired into the same unit, causing another wound. Ultramarines turn 4 assault phase. The only thing that we tried to do was the Ultramarine Breacher Squad tried to make a 10-inch charge through terrain against the Venators, but we unfortunately rolled a 7. Not enough. Next into the assault phase, the Master of Signals went at first at Initiative 5, swinging over his Legatane Axe. He initially rolled 2 6s to hit, which would cause 2 automatic wounds, and then on his 3rd hit, rolled another 6 to wound, causing 3 wounds total. And the Thalax, failed all of their Feel No Pains and subsequently killed 1 model. At Initiative 2, the Thalax went next with 4 attacks, only getting 1 hit, but then also failed to wound with that hit. And then due to them being stubborn, they passed their leadership test. Over the right-hand side of the boards, the Ultramarine Breachers have managed to cut down the final Thalax and have consolidated 4 inches. Summary of Ultramarines turn 4. Really doing well. We've won the combat on both the right-hand flank, but we're still tied up on the left-hand flank. The old Master of Signals is really holding them all up.
5th and final turn for the Auto Reductor, and there's been a lot of thinking going into this turn. There is no way the Auto Reductor will get the enemy's deployment zone, no matter which way I go for it, or if I go flat out. The Ultramarines have done a great job of denying that. So we're going to try and keep hold of our own, and maybe claim the middle. So to that end, the 2 Venators here, firing at full effect, will try and take out that Achilles Alpha. There is last man standing, so we're trying to go for that. The Venators here, the one at the back is wasted, but this one here will again try and double firepower upon that Achilles Alpha, just in case the other 2 are unsuccessful. We need to pray that these 2 Thalax can hold out against the Master of Signals. The 2 Thalax on top there with the multi-melters have lined up into position. They will either go for the Landriller Mark IIB to their right or to the one in front. The Trias Armoured Conveyor has made a ram attack and caused a hull point thanks to the Haywire. The Strength 9 attack was unsuccessful. We needed a 5 to glance and we rolled a 3, so that was a real shame. And then finally on this side, the Trias Armoured Conveyor has moved up and we'll put one of the Volkite Sentinels and the Maul Bolt Cannon into this Breacher Squad, and the Kraknos will fire the Sentinel weapons into the Breachers, and then put their barrage weapons over onto that multi-melter squad to alleviate the pressure on the side of the board for the Venators. The Magos has been a bit of a chicken and moved back 6 inches. We do not want to give up Warlord in this game. Extremely tight. Auto Reductor, turn 5 shooting, starting with the Trios Armoured Conveyor, Twin Link Mauler Bolt Cannon into the breaches. 3 hits, 3 wounds. The first one was saved by the Artificer Armour of the squad, but the shot got through and killed him in the second, and then the third took a Breacher Marine off. The Volkite Sentinel then fired in, but failed to wound. The Kraknos Assault Tank fired its 2 Sentinel weapons into the breaches in front of it, killed 2 Marines. Then the missiles fired up into the air, down into the multi-melter squad, and managed to kill 1 of them, despite wounding 4 times. The second Kraknos opened up and fired its 2 Sentinel weapons into the breaches in front of it, and reduced it to 2 Marines. And then again, the mortar battery fired over the top, and hit that multi-melter squad 8 times, but only managed to kill 1 Marine. The photon thruster and lightning gun from the squad of Thalax in the building fired down into the Breacher Marines. The lightning gun missed, but the photon thruster managed to take the final 2 breaches from that unit, killing them. That was a good result. The 2 multi-melters boosted their ballistic skill from the Arc Magos Reductor, and that little Cybot Goliath there fired 2 multi-melters down into the Land Rover Mark IIB at the foot of that cliff there. 2 hits, 2 pens, and that was enough to explode it. We're working well to the last man standing. The single Kraus Venator that could draw a line of sight to the Achilles Alpha fired 4 shots, got 4 hits. The tank did have a 5-up cover save, which was failed. Those 4 shots went in, and they caused 2 penetrating and got a double immobilized result, which resulted in 3 hull points. There is 1 left with 2 Venators eyeing it up. The 2 Venators trained their Fusils onto the Achilles Alpha in between the crates and the breaches. 8 shots went in. There was 4 hits. No cover saves were made, and that was enough to take the final hull point from the tank, causing 4 penetrates and a glancing hit, helping towards the last man standing for the Auto Reductor. Auto Reductor turn 5 assault phase, striking initiative 5. The Master of Signals went in with his Legatine axe, got 2 6s, so they automatically wounded, and then caused another wound, all at AP2, and that was enough to kill the Thalax that had 1 wound remaining, and put another on the Thalax. Bad times. The Thalax then attacked back, missed, failed his leadership test, and the Master of Signals cut the Thalax down. The Master of Signals then consolidated 6 inches towards the Kraus Venator tanks. End of Auto Reductor turn 5. We go into 1 more turn for the Ultramarines, and that is it. The only thing that they could do was that the Thalax here moved a whopping 10 inches from the top of that building into the cover of the crates, just denying the centre line for the Ultramarines, and then finally the 2 multi-melters thrust back 7 inches to take refuge behind that command bunker. We will see what the Ultramarines have got in the next turn.
Ultramarines turn 5 movement phase, final movement of the game. The Master of Signals have moved forward through terrain another 4 inches, approaching the Venator squadron. The Breacher unit then moved a massive 6 inches through cover and have climbed over those barricades ready to get the charge off against the Venators. The Melter support squad and the Warlord have moved round to engage the second unit of Krios Venators with their melter guns. The middle Mark IIB has moved back on itself 12 inches to get a side shot on that Krios Venator, Krios Armoured Conveyor in the centre of the board. And the Damocles Command Rhino has moved forward to try and claim the middle of the board. Ultramarines turn 5 shooting phase. The Mark IIB Land Raider has used Parliament Machine Spirit to fire its last cannon into the side of the Trios Armour Conveyor, causing 1 penetrating hit and gaining an immobilised result. Next to fire was the Melter Gun support team. The tactical support Marines themselves completely whiffed their rolls, but the Warlord fired in with his combi melter, causing 1 hit, 1 pen, and an explode result. Ultramarines Turn 5 Assault phase. It was an excellent phase. The breacher unit from the barrels over here needed a 9-inch charge to get into the Venators, and they rolled exactly what they needed. The Master of Signals then needed a 6-inch to get into combat as well with Venators. He also made his charge. And then the Warlord's Melter unit needed a 6-inch charge to get into the final Venator, and they also made their charge. Combat between the Warlord and Melter team's unit against the Krios Venator. The Sergeant managed to strap his Melter bomb to the Krios Venator and exploded it, but in doing so, killed one of the Marines in the unit. Final assault for the Ultramarines against the last remaining 2 Venators. We had 7 Melter bombs, 5 of them hit, and we had 5 penetrating hits. We caused a double explosion result, and in doing so, we lost 2 of the breachers. That's the end of the game. Now I need to see who controls the Warbringer.
John, that was an amazing game.
It was, wasn't it?
It was very exhausting.
It was, but very tiring. There
was a few bottlenecks in there. The Mechanicum struggled to gain ground, but what a hell of a game. There was lots of stuff that died, wasn't it?
There was a lot of death on the field.
Oh man, it was mental. Let's just dig into the victory points very quickly. It was a bit of a weird one. We had to work it out. In the end, the victory went to the Ultramarines, scoring 3 points because you secured your own deployment zone. And you had 1 model from your breacher squad in the Mechanicum's deployment zone. So it's very, very unclear about what happens there. So it just says you need 1 scoring unit to contest essentially your own deployment zone. So it's not clear whether it's 1 model or the entire squad. We've gone with 1 model. If that's wrong or right, please let us know. So you contested the Mechanicum deployment zone. So I didn't score mine. I didn't score anything else, but I did get last man standing.
You did.
So the final score was 3 points to the Ultramarines and 1 to the Mechanicum. So congratulations.
Thank you very much for the game.
A really hard fought win though.
It was.
It was
very,
tough.
very tough.
Oh man.
I think the last turn of the game was where it came back for me.
Yeah, it's where you shone, eh?
It was where I shone.
You know, I was in 2 minds whether to flat out those Kraft Venators, but it wouldn't have mattered because you still would have got the melter gun, still would have got it, and it was worth taking out the tank to get the points.
The last Achilles, yeah. God, definitely.
If I'd been a bit, I say I've been a bit clever. I tried to take out those breaches, but you know, you're getting rerolls against blasts.
Yeah,
nothing I could do about that.
Very ineffective against them, which kind of made me feel bad.
You no need to feel bad. Those breaches did an amazing job. They weathered a ton of firepower, and they made it into the deployment zone.
They did.
So amazing job. Really cool. Now tell us about the model you've brought back.
So the Master of Signal, I brought him back because he's outperformed himself today.
Yeah,
he really has. Holding up that unit of Thalax for 3 turns of combat.
Did really well.
Yep, and then in the final 3rd turn, managed to sweep in advance and take out the last one.
Yeah.
And then go on again to add his melter bomb to the final blow.
Oh man, 7 melter bombs I think it was in the end.
Yeah,
or something.
It was.
But yeah, you did a great job ripping apart those Venators in the final turn of the game. I mean, what an amazing effort you had there. It was unreal.
The charge was very, very lucky, wasn't it?
It was
Needed
good.
a 9 and rolled the 9. You couldn't write it. You couldn't write it.
I brought back a Thalax. I think the tanks did okay. They were hampered by coming onto the board, but you know that was the advantage of deploying in the Titan repair bay, that they were hampered because the Thalax had some reasonable survivability in that complex, didn't they?
Yeah.
But I have brought the Thalax back. They did an amazing job coming up, taking out that. Was it an Achilles in the first turn, or was it the Land Raider Mark IIB?
First, I think it was straight away a Mark IIB.
It was
first turn straight away.
Very rarely do those Thalax with the photon thrusters get the 6s with the Lance special rule, but we did all right and took one out in the first turn, so really pleased with them. And obviously it was the classic jetpacks over and above,
jump, shoot, jump.
Yeah, you know, it's like 30k Tau, so they did really well. But surviving in combat against those 2 big combats, they did well. But you know, the Legatine Axe was an amazing result for you.
I don't know how I rolled that many 6s. I really don't.
It was really
good.
Fantastic. It did really well. The Legatine Axe, remember, on a 6 causes a wound. So, yeah, good effort there.
It was a really good effort for him.
Man, what an enjoyable game. And what a visual feast that board was. You know, I didn't think I was going to be able to get anything to put that Warbringer Titan in, but we didn't just want to plonk it on the middle of the board because it just would look weird. It had to have a kind of a story around it. But I think we got it in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I think it was
You nailed it.
It was all right.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Now, there has been a ton of photos from this game. So if you'd like to see more of those photos, please go to the Facebook page when this game is released. You can enjoy those photos there. Now, John, where can we follow you to keep up to date?
I'm on Instagram at John_the_red85.
Brilliant. And of course, you can follow the channel on Instagram as well. We must also say a final thank you. We'll look at him now off camera to Mr. Ed Stammers. He's done an amazing job today. He's kept us up to date with our rules. He's been our
prop manager.
Our prop manager. Yeah, the fluffy bits of smoke were all he's doing. So instead of just
He's a genius.
Yeah, it looks really good.
It does.
Instead of just sticking a single one behind a tank, he's whisked them up. He's separated them out. He's done a great job there.
He's added the flair.
He's added to the experience.
He has.
We will hopefully get him on for a game. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we can tempt him. Maybe.
Definitely.
Is there a nod? Yeah, we got a yes. So that's good news. Final closing thoughts for you, John.
It was absolutely enjoyable. The result is obviously fantastic.
Of course.
But I've just had an amazing day.
Good. I'm so pleased.
So thank you very much, Brains.
My pleasure. And I must say, he's put up an absolute fight. There was a couple of turns I thought, oh, I'll be all right. And then towards the end, I was like, oh, God, I need to do something here. But he did an amazing job. So thank you for the game.
Awesome.
That is it from us. We will see you in the next game.